for each other.
It's the Matt Schneidman Show, Monday, October 14th. Doug and I are live from Potawatomi Casino, Hotel, and Sportsbook. Doug is taking off his headset. Ahman Green is on his way up. We're welcoming him in for the Green and Gold Legends Series. So give us a second to get him seated, but we're going to be talking everything with Ahman about the Packers' 34-13 win over the Cardinals yesterday. For those watching on the StreamYard, Ahman Green's here. Matt, nice to meet you.
All right.
The second edition of the Green and Gold Legends Series, and I believe we've now had 2/3 of your podcast on the show since Dorsey Levens was our first guest here
100%.
a couple of weeks ago.
I don't know if you're going to get big chilly here, but you can. He's a little grumpy in his old age. He's still good.
We got to get all three of them.
Yeah, we got all at the same time. It'll be special. That'll be a good night.
So I want to ask you this first, since John Kuhn is our colleague here on the game on the station. I have a podcast with John. Did you offer him a certain amount of money for number 30 when you came back to the Packers?
We did. We talked about it, but I was like, nah, I'll just go with 34 because I was like, nah. I just didn't. At first, I thought he was maybe not going to charge me. I'm like, we're teammates, but he said something. I was like, nah, it's all good.
Do you remember the dollar amount?
It was in the thousands for sure.
Oh
and I was like, nah.
He's so greedy.
It's not worth it.
Greedy.
I said, I'll play in my old high school number 34 for a season. Enjoy that. And that was it. That was it.
How was the ovation you got yesterday? Were you pleased with the ovation you got?
Yeah, it was awesome. To hear the crowd cheer, be loud like that for your name being called, does wonders. It shows me that obviously I'm still remembered and revered and all that fun stuff with being a former player, what you did on the football field. So fans still know about you.
Of course they still know about you. You're the best. Can we say best running back in Packers history?
Yeah, I can actually say that. Yeah.
All-time leading rusher in Packers history.
Guy, so it's like usually I don't really braggadocious about myself, but factually, yeah, that's the truth.
Four-time Pro Bowler.
Yeah. Your
2003 season is probably the single greatest season of a running back in Packers history.
Yep.
So if you have all justification to say that you're the greatest running back in Packers history. What I'm assuming you stay, maybe not in touch with the team, but you keep up with how the team's doing and whatnot.
Yep.
What was your impression yesterday? Obviously a beatdown, but they made a big change this offseason at your position, letting Aaron Jones walk or releasing him, I should say, and then moving to Josh Jacobs, who was a first-team All-Pro 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. What were your thoughts of that? And then seeing him in person yesterday, what were your thoughts of that as well?
I mean, he's everything I thought it would be. I watched him since he got in the league, and he's one of the guys I like to watch. I like to watch all the running backs from their sizes to their abilities, what moves they like to do, if they're a physical runner, if they're a finesse runner, what they'll make you miss, stuff like that. So I just kind of watch all 32 running backs out in the league and been watching him since he got to the Raiders and out of Alabama years ago. Great story behind him too.
Phenomenal.
Before he became a part of the Roll Tide and before he became a Raider, he just had a interesting growing up, but that molded him into a strong guy on and off the field. And so I respect that about him. And then him coming here, I was just like, oh man, now. And it was after, Aaron Jones became a Viking, and then knowing that AJ was here, mm-hmm. and then finding out, dang it, I didn't know, I was like a week. It was like I was talking about AJ and him in the backfield right in preseason. Then like the next week I find out about the neck injury. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And so me and AJ are friends. So I talked to him day one. When he became a Packer, when he got drafted from Boston College. And it was crazy. It was a friend of a friend whose son went to college with AJ.
Okay.
So his son was the quarterback for Boston College.
Really? Okay.
And so that's how I got AJ's number, hit him up and just start talking to him. We got a lot in common other than being a running back. He's a gamer too. He streams and everything. So we had that part connection. So we talked before he even set on the soil here in Wisconsin. Got connected there and just been talking, through times and when we can. And then seeing him, about to be in the backfield with Josh Jacobs was like, oh man, this is going to be fun. And then the injury happened, but now we got to wait one more year. Wow. And so he'll be ready to go. So I can't wait.
They got a pretty solid backup, Emmanuel Wilson. I think they've upgraded at that position,
Yeah,
but
I
that
like Emmanuel. He runs hard.
yeah, that
Another runner.
position's gone through some turmoil, but you're seeing, and every Monday show we just go through everything that happened in the Sunday game, and 34-13. Obviously, we'll get into the situation at kicker. Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs being back, the defense, but I want to start with the starting quarterback. Yesterday, I would say, is the first game he's looked like himself, and when I say himself, I mean
Yeah.
the guy that we saw the second half of last season.
Yep. And the first half of the Philadelphia game.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah, exactly. With Jordan Love, obviously the first two games back from that sprained MCL wasn't himself, but his decision making was a little bit reckless, and people have said he's a mix between Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. He's not as reckless as Brett, but he's not as conservative as Aaron. And with a quarterback like that, who's that physically gifted and able to make those plays, you don't want to take away that aggressiveness.
No,
that's what enables you to make those explosive plays.
It gives you the confidence.
Without a doubt. And the play that I saw that made me go, okay, his knee's fine, is 3 minutes left in the game. They're up 21. He hands off to Emmanuel Wilson. He kind of bumps it outside.
And he goes blocking.
And he's lead blocking.
I saw that too.
On his best friend.
Oh.
That linebacker is his best friend. They were high school teammates. Chris
real?
Barnes used to be a Packer. They went to high school together.
Oh, yeah, Chris. Yeah. Remember him.
But that was when I said, okay, Jordan Love's okay. 4 touchdowns. First time since Brett Favre in 95 that a Packers quarterback has thrown for 4 touchdowns in consecutive home games.
Wow, didn't know that.
So he's airing it out. I'm surprised Aaron never did that.
Yeah, it's interesting that you compare him to Brett when he's probably met Brett once, maybe twice, but never been around.
I don't know if he's ever met
for
Brett.
a long standing to say that. Now he's been around Aaron for a long standing, so picking up attributes, little details of their personality or their gameplay definitely will happen. He's been on a team with them at least 3 years or whatever. So yeah, that definitely will be something a guy could pick up. Same thing with Aaron and Brett, but I say Aaron definitely was. He's still playing? So is a guy that is one with his gameplay, with his throwing, very accurate, and he has just as powerful as Brett. I know can throw the ball. Aaron has the same velocity on the ball. It will whip past your ear, and you can hear it. And so that's the part what makes them special. They got that arm talent. We're watching other guys around the league, and obviously Caleb Williams has been a big talk since his being eligible to get drafted. He has that type of work talent too. And I've seen him play. I just haven't seen him play in person or being on a football field trying to catch one of his balls yet. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll be able to do that, being him a Bear and not far away. But I wish that to happen because he looks like a very open-minded kid and very loose. Obviously, he's very just one of them players that he kind of let his talent go. And now you teach him the X's and O's, the classroom stuff, then he just grows and grows. So it's going to be interesting, obviously, as he comes up. And then they got a matchup this year that is going to be interesting, fun to watch. It's going to be competitive because that defense for the Bears is playing good. Offense is now starting to click. They have the same record. And, Jordan is Jordan along with his offense and the way they're doing play calling that helped out Malik Willis when he had to step in for a couple weeks. Fantastic play call. To get him ready and also give him the plays that will help him succeed while he was in there. So I thought all that was fantastic. Matt LaFleur got to do that for him.
And another quarterback who you could group in that same category is the guy who's coming into town on Sunday, C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, I watched him. That was another one. That was 2 guys in the last couple of years. So Caleb this past draft, and then 2 years ago, C.J. I knew C.J. right away was going to have a fantastic year. I remember the day he got drafted, and it was for whatever reason. I don't know why doubters on him. I didn't get it. He's an Ohio State quarterback.
The news came out that he didn't score well on the S2 cognition test.
And that's BS.
Yes.
I'll say that. Because I barely got through that darn test myself.
And you turned out pretty good.
Yeah, and it's funny when I hear that and see his reaction of his draft placement. He was a first-round pick to the Texans, and a couple picks later they picked up was it Williams?
Will Anderson, yeah.
Will Anderson from Alabama, the DN. So fantastic draft for the Texans that year. But seeing CJ's reaction, it brought me back to my day because I was a guy that was basically looked over. Even though I had a pro day where I ran a 4.1740 and a 4.1740 and a 4.1840. I jumped 41 and a half inches. I had a broad jump of 11.1 and a pro agility of 3.92. So you telling me I can't go first round just off of that?
Yeah.
and then they have to find out everything else
People
later.
overthink it, and those are
Right.
the GMs who aren't GMs for much
Between
longer.
scouts overthinking, right? And so when I saw CJ, I saw all the doubters in his head. If you don't, if you understand what I'm talking about, it's like basically being looked over, you're being second guessed. And so I saw the baggage on his shoulders, just like it was a chip on my shoulder. I was like, I'm gonna prove to every team that passed me over, even the team that drafted me. One day I may not be a Seahawk at that time.
Right.
I'm gonna give you the business because you passed me over in the third round or the second round and the first round. Because I'm that player that I could come in and I know what I can do when I'm around other players that we're on the same page to win and have a good team, basically.
Curious, when you
So
came over to the Packers, when a player gets traded, is it like an ego hit? Like your original team says you don't need me anymore, and Charles Woodson always tells the story about how when he first got to Green Bay, he was
yeah,
like, "There's nothing to do here. This sucks," and it turned out to be one of the best things that happened to his career with
yeah,
Ted Thompson.
yeah.
What was it like for you when you first got to Green Bay?
And also, so it's a lot of behind, it's in front of the camera stuff and it's behind the scenes stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so behind the scenes stuff, so I knew it wasn't the team. It was Mike Holmgren. I got in his doghouse. He thought I was a fumbler. And from there, was motivation again to get better. Actually, I had a pretty good second year with him where I had to unlearn what I learned with Dennis Erickson and his offensive scheme and his offensive coordinator, Barkowski, who I had. And then going in my second year, I get Mike Holmgren. Great. Like, oh my God, I've been watching him play. I watched them beat the Packers or beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl in '96. I was a sophomore in college at Nebraska. I'm a fan. And also, he's bringing in an offense that I grew up watching. I grew up watching Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, Roger Craig run the West Coast offense. And so I understood it that a running back you basically got to be you're all around back.
Mm-hmm.
You catch the ball, you run the ball, you pick up the blitzes, you're going to run screens. You might even be split in the slot and have to do wide receiver stuff. And I just like, oh, I'm so excited. I remember that first couple mini camps were my mind was wide open. So when I saw the play, I had plays that I was in the slot. I had plays where I was the W receiver, the X or the Z on the wide edge, going to running a 9. I'm like, oh man, so this is gonna be fun because I know I could do this stuff. But then came the season, or say training camp, and that's when everything got, because we start installing all the game plans, and that's where things got a little complicated because in minicamp, it was kind of vanilla. It was just introducing the West
Right.
Coast. Then training camp came in. Okay, here's all the audibles and adjustments when we have certain coverages and certain blitz looks from the defense. And now we got to know those adjustments. I was like, okay, now I got to learn that. And so that was where I stumbled a little bit. It was just processing stuff, learning new stuff, it was basically how I always talk about it. I was learning new language. So I already knew English coming from Nebraska. Going in Seattle, I picked up Spanish. And then now, third year, now I'm picking up Mandarin. I'm like, oh my God. I'm just like hearing stuff that the quarterback is saying to me, and I'm like, what does that mean right now? I hear the old linemen making their checks because they see some movement on the defensive line or the linebackers getting in the gap, and I'm like, oh God, something's about to happen. I was like, look at me, just block somebody, and if it ain't my guy, go to the next guy. And so that was going through my head, and still trying to be a football player. And so that's where the fumbling came in because I was just overthinking,
Right.
over processing in preseason ball, '99 season, and it was to a point where I was like, man, I'm gonna get cut. I'm gonna be out of here because I'm messing up. I'm going the wrong way. I'm dropping the ball. I even called my agent and said, hey, does the Mariners got any extra spots behind Ken Griffey Jr.? Because I played baseball in high school, and I actually got looked at from the Royals. And I was like, look, I'll go play center field behind Ken Griffey. I'll take his spot when he's done. So it was that serious where I was at. So Holmgren had a little bit of a point, but I knew it was a problem. I knew it wasn't a problem. I knew it was just me. Once I get this offense fumbling, holding, that's going to be gone. And so with that, it was, like I said, motivation. But then the trade came once it came up. Mike Sherman got to Green Bay, and he liked me, regardless of what.
Well, he was your OC in Seattle.
Yeah, he was my OC in Seattle, so he watched my development. And like I said, I had a good season after I got a training camp, and then we got the regular season going. I began as I ended the season from my rookie year. I was the third down back, and I continued that on. And then I was the special teams guru. I just obviously learning how to get down on the field, not be blocked, make a lot of tackles. So I was always the star on the special teams on those 2 years I was there. So along with that, and now getting carries more on offense, I had my teammates always asking me, man, when are you gonna start? I was like, I'm a young guy. I just got here.
It ain't my
Yeah, it
decision.
ain't my decision. You the big guys like Cortez and Michael St. Clair were asking me, man, get in there, man, go in that. I said, no, y'all go in that office. I'm not getting cut. I was like, my time will come. I knew my time would come. I don't know. I was like, I hope it's here because this is the team that drafted me. I would rather make my name for myself here, but business happened, and then sure enough, I was headed back to Green Bay, and like I said, so it was more behind the scenes stuff. It
Right.
wasn't that team. It wasn't. Randy Mueller was the GM, and Paul Allen was one of the owners. So it wasn't the team that didn't want me. It was that coach that came in a year later that saw something good, but he thought, I needed more development. And I told him, like, he came here when we played him in '03. He asked me, he's like, "Good, hey man, you've been doing fantastic." This is Mike Holmgren to me on the pregame sidelines, and I'm like, he says, "Yeah, I was just giving you, I was just pushing you and trying to motivate you." I said, "Coach, I'm not that type of player." I said, "I already had it in my head what I knew I was wrong. I knew I had to get right. I knew I was processing the offense so much that I was forgetting who I am on the football field." And I was like, "So you didn't have to be yelling at me and telling me this and that, where I was already tapped in. I was already locked in to get better on that football field because that's what I knew I wanted to do, and I was really still am, and was then super goal oriented to making sure I could be somebody on the team that the team could depend on me with the ball in my hand or just being on the field to help the team win."
So that call or the text or call, whatever you said to your agent about the Mariners, that was serious?
That was serious. I was dead on because
You're a good baseball player?
Hey, my dad always said I was a better baseball player than football player. Yeah, and I was center field. Obviously, I hit lefty. I could hit every pitch. My favorite pitch to hit was a curveball because I could get once the ball did that hump. I was like, I'm gonna get right under it, hit
Oh,
this
yeah.
thing over the fence every time. So, yep, yep.
As you could probably tell, I'm a diehard Yankee fan.
Yeah,
So
that's
we
all
got
good. Your
game one.
guys, your boys are playing good.
Yeah, I'm from New York City. So we got game one of the ALCS coming
Yep.
up in 20 minutes
Oh yeah,
exactly.
legit fan right there. Got the
Yeah.
timing down
I
and
got it
everything.
tattooed on my arm too.
Oh, dope.
Um,
Oh, let me
yeah.
see that.
My late
Oh yeah.
grandmother grew up in the Bronx, so those are her
Oh,
initials. So
dope.
we got to get to a break here on the Match Schneidman Show. After the break, we're going to go to our final judgment segment that we do every Monday. And Doug, I think you know where mine is going.
I think I know where yours is
Yeah,
going.
I think you know where mine's going. So stick with us. It's Ahman Green on the Match Schneidman Show, live from Potawatomi Sportsbook, the beautiful studio here in Milwaukee. You always got to check it out. Stick with us right here on the game.
I love you like a brother. Earthquakes shake the
Matt Schneidman Show, Monday, October 14th, post-Week 6 edition, Packers 34, Cardinals 13. And as we do every Monday, it's time now for our final judgment presented by Habush, and Rotier. Get it? It's a law firm, final judgment.
Yeah,
My
it worked well.
final judgment. And I haven't said this definitively yet this season because I like to consider myself not someone who indulges in hot take artistry. I want to be measured. The Packers need a new kicker. Braden Narveson has missed 5 field goals in 6 games. He missed another one against the Titans that was negated by a penalty.
Mhm.
All of them have missed wide right or hit off the right upright. He hasn't even attempted a kick of at least 50 yards. All of them have been under 50 yards. He even missed a 39-yarder. Last year, the Packers saw what a young kicker who was inconsistent the last 2/3 of the season can do to damage your playoff chances.
100%.
Lost the game by 3. Anders Carlson missed a 41-yarder. Maybe Narveson is the reverse Carlson. Carlson didn't miss a kick until week 7 last year. Narveson can't go a game without making one, except last week. My final judgment, Packers need a new kicker, and I don't think that's hyperbole anymore.
No, it's important. You know, when you have those key situations. I mean, I coached high school up at Freedom High School, just outside of Green Bay, about 20 minutes southwest. And I was special team coordinator. My second year, I coached there for 3 years. And every year we made it to the playoffs. And I got my kicker. When I got there, he was a freshman. No, he was a sophomore. And then by the time I left, he was a senior. But that freshman year, sophomore year, that was the tough years because he was kicking the ball regardless of any level, because I was a punter in high school and a field goal kicker too, little league too. It's all mental. It's like golf. It's like, finding your stroke in golf to make sure, obviously, you hit the ball straight off the drive, and then the short game, it comes in handy because obviously it keeps you in. If you keep the ball in the fairway, get you to the hole, and then you just want to get there in a couple shots where you could just putt short. And if you don't have those short game putts, like a field goal, when it's a 20-yarder or if it's a PAT, missing those things, obviously, as we know, in the NFL, D1 college football can be detrimental to your season.
Absolutely.
Because you get that situation. I mean, we've seen them. We see the situation, 4th and whatever, and field goal kickers out there to win the game. How many? I don't know. It's 1,000 times that's happened to the Packers, to NFL teams, college football teams. And so when that kicker is off, because right now Nebraska's having the same problem. My Go Big Red. They got some young 2 kickers that are having issues with hitting the long ball and it being accurate. And so one thing I learned with my kicker at Freedom was the fact that with it being so mental, I said, so then now that means as a coach, it's not only so much I could do with him. I got to support him 100%, and then he has to do the rest because it's all within himself to say, hey, I got the confidence. No matter what the wind is doing, what the weather is doing around me, I could kick this ball straight and I'm going to make it. Even if it's, for him, I think his longest was a 40-yard field goal. That was his range, 40, 45 yards. And we made sure we always got within that to get him in his range and have that confidence. But then we had to do that as an offense. And obviously the offensive lineman that was on field goal protection have to protect him and him and the long snapper so they could get the, situation, process, boom, down set, ball set, can then kick. So I always tell them, look, if you miss one, we got to let it go. Move on to the next one, and you're going to make – and every time you step up in here, you're going to make this kick. That's how you got to think this. I'm going to make this kick. Things I had to do to get myself, I say, out of that hole when I was fumbling the ball, I'll just tell myself 1,000 times before the ball was snapped, hold on to the ball, don't think, hold on to the ball, hold on to the ball. And then once I got past that, it was just don't think, just be a player. Go do my thing as a running back. And so then that kicker, I wish I knew his name. I'm gonna look up his name so I could have
Clearly
his name
wasn't that good.
And no, he was good. He was good. He helped us out. And so, but once I gave him that confidence, and that's from the support, then he could go out there. He was hitting all the kicks within his range, and even the regular PATs, it was not the problem. So that's what these kickers got to do. They basically got to look themselves in the mirror and have that woosah moment to be like, hey, this is on me, nobody else, because obviously at this level, all the pressure's there, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's Green Bay's having a heck of a season right now. We're 2 games above 500. The NFC North is 17-5 right now. All the teams are playoff eligible at
first
this
division.
Right.
Since realignment in 2002.
Right.
with all 4 teams at 4 wins through 6 weeks.
At this point, everybody's eligible for the playoffs at this point, and we still got 2.5 months of football left, if not more. But a good stat. That's a great stat for it. And I called it. I said this division is going to be the old school black and blue. It's unfortunate Aiden is out right now, but that team is going to somebody's going to step up.
Yeah, Lions are
and
figuring it out.
And I mean, Coach Dan Campbell has done a fantastic job. So it's going to be next man up mentality, especially, and it's going to. So nothing's going to change when Detroit comes here and we go there. So that this season for all the teams here in this division is going to be rocky. It's going to get beat. They're going to be beat up, but somebody's going to come out on top. So it's going to be fun to watch as a fan.
Doug, your final judgment this week?
Kind of along those same lines. I think that the team that emerges from the NFC North is going to win the Super Bowl. That's my final judgment because they're going to beat up on each other a little bit with the 2 head-to-head games that each team plays against each other. But it's also going to make them better for the Super Bowl run, for the playoff run. Yeah. So, iron sharpens iron, that old adage. And I think 100%. That there's something to that. And, I think every team, even the Bears, and I know that they beat up on a bad Jaguars team yesterday, but they've got a lot of confidence. They've got, Keenan Allen's a great player. Cole Kmet's a great player. Caleb Williams is figuring it out as an NFL quarterback. They've got talent on that team. I think even the Bears could win the Super Bowl this year, but whoever emerges from that division is going all the way.
You think the Bears can win the Super Bowl? And I'm a neutral reporter. I'm not a Packer fan. I'm not saying that to appease the Packers listeners of our show. You really think the Bears can win the Super Bowl?
I think anything could happen in the NFL. Oof, I think on any given Sunday.
That's a true fact, though. Anything can happen.
Anything. I think that it could happen. And we've been waiting for the Bears to be the Bears at some point, and they haven't done it yet.
Here's a question for you. Matt LaFleur is 10-0 against the Bears.
Yeah.
Do the Bears beat the Packers this year?
I think they beat them once this year. Probably, maybe the one in Chicago.
Okay.
I'll go with that. I can see Chicago getting a dub there.
Yeah,
because they got a tough defense, and then Caleb, the way he plays, his game is so just natural in terms of he goes through his progressions, then his normal is scrambling around. Yeah, that's the new normal.
Just like the guy they played yesterday.
Yeah, Kyler Murray. But it was cold up there.
Yeah.
So that was a different factor. I said, ooh, this rain's I already knew it was a different game because I played in that. I said, this is more for my style of running. Like they had Connor, our running backs, Josh and Emmanuel, they did their thing because that was the weather. The weather set the tone. Usually it's the team setting the tone. No, it was Mother Nature set a tone yesterday.
Yeah.
I knew right away Kyler may not have a great game today because he can't scramble around like he wants because of the field conditions.
Yeah.
And so that right there is going to be a deterrent for him being Kyler Murray as we saw previous games.
And I also think that with the Bears, if they're good, that makes the rivalry that much better.
Yeah.
I mean, now when you were playing against the Bears for so many years, I mean, that was during, I think at one point Brett was like 20-4 against Chicago.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Guys beat them up pretty good.
Yeah, we got on them, but they had their years. They won the Super Bowl year.
Yeah, they did.
So they had that great season. They won the division there. And even the year that the Packers won the Super Bowl, I wasn't on the team in 2010. They had another good season because
they won the division then too.
The Packers had to go to Chicago to beat the Bears in there, and they ended up doing it. But that was another good team they had. So yeah, when the teams are, when there's parity and the parity is not much different, that's where you got solid teams. Like I said, like you already said, the teams will beat each other up to get ready for the playoffs, and they won't be, they'll face any other team from another division and be like, oh man, we've seen this, and they'll be ready to go.
So we got NFC North Super Bowl winner.
Yep.
And Packers need a new kicker.
Yep.
Those are our final judgments presented by Habush and Rotier, national reputation, hometown service. Go to Habush, that's HABUSH.com. And it's funny you say that because the Packers-Vikings game has been the only NFC North game this season. They haven't even, beaten up on each other yet. It's been 6 weeks through the year. The Lions play the Vikings this weekend. I don't know where that game is. Packers have the Texans coming in.
I think it's in Minneapolis.
In Minneapolis?
Yeah.
Okay, so some good football coming up. I want to talk about the Packers defense. Last year, they had 18 takeaways the entire season. This year, 17 takeaways already through 6 weeks.
6 games.
And that is the most takeaways for any team through 6 weeks since the 2018 Bears. Most takeaways through 6 games for the Packers since 2002.
Oh, wow.
So this defense is flying around. They got the defensive coordinator who was the head coach at Boston College the last 4 years.
Yep.
He's preaching, a vision-based defense. Keep your eyes on the quarterback. Read off the quarterback instead of just your man.
Yep.
Attack. And it was funny. Evan Williams, their rookie safety, who had one of the forced fumbles yesterday, said they created their own Bible verse basically in the Packers locker room. It's Campy 316. Anthony Campanelli is their linebackers coach. So Campy 316 is God loves those who run after the football. That's what he said.
I like that.
So that's how they're getting all these takeaways.
Okay. I mean, in that mindset and that coaching philosophy, when you have somebody who is charismatic, sounds like, was it how you say his name?
Anthony Campanelli.
Anthony Campanelli.
Came over from the Dolphins this offseason.
And you have that charismatic going on about him. The players being so young, they haven't really became the player that is being announced on ESPN. The names are being called. So they're kind of still growing into a mode of a DB or safety or defensive end or linebacker. And they're creating those what's the word? That name for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so this whole team is young in a lot of places. The wide receiver is another one, but the DBs and one with Keyshawn Nixon leading the pack, and he's still young himself. And then you got McKinney coming on. He's a first-round draft pick a few years ago, but coming in, and so it's no namers out there. So they're just out there doing their thing, taking that philosophy, which is smart. Where you got to watch the quarterback, because then that's usually watching a quarterback. That's zone coverage. You watch the quarterback. That's usually, but when you're doing it the whole game and you're learning how to click from, and you're sitting in man coverage, you're still watching the quarterback. You're stealing because you're almost cheating, because it's man coverage. You should be watching the man you're covering. Mm-hmm. But if you're being a little bit aware and looking back,
have your eyes on both of them.
Yeah, when you could do that, that's something special, and that's what the better defensive back. That's a Deion Sanders type move to Darrelle Revis. Do that, because when you know the coverage, you could be like, all right, I know what I'm supposed to be doing, but if I cheat here, I might get a leg up on the quarterback, because he's going to assume that I'm man, my head's turned, and I'm not paying attention, but I am. And so that's where the turnovers are coming. And then obviously the punch outs. Last 3 series, all punched out fumbles for the Packers defense, and they get the ball back into Jordan Love and offense hand. That's just something where you're just being a super aggressive, hyper aggressive, and hyper aware, knowing, okay, when the ball is being stopped, Connor has the ball, or the receiver gets tackled, stood up, second guy, third guy coming in, bow, trying to give that thing a left jab to get the ball out there. And we saw that. And so right now, this attitude stays there, man. We could, like you said, playoffs, Super Bowl might be lurking, because the biggest thing once you get into playoffs is what? Keep the ball. Don't turn it over a whole lot, and don't try to give, if it's a high-powered offense, don't let them have the ball a whole lot where they have time of possession to control the clock, because then our team can then flip it on them, because our defense is doing their job getting the ball back.
I think Evan Williams said it post-game, because he had the punch after that 16-yard reception yesterday, and he said there were some guys, this is how I interpreted it, but he was basically saying that there were guys on the sideline who had tackled that receiver before, Greg Dortch from the Cardinals, and it basically said he's loose with the ball. Punch it out.
Yeah,
and Evan Williams
is like,
too. Evan Williams said, I saw him falling. The ball's naturally going to get far away from your body when you're falling down, because Jair had hit him from below and he was going down. Textbook punch out. Matt LaFleur called it basically teach tape today, that one. Carl Brooks had one on the screen to Connor. And then the third one, it technically was a punch out, but the Cardinals running back punched it out of Kyler Murray's hand,
it was a mesh.
Just fell on
it was the mesh into an RPO.
Yeah.
And I saw that. I'm like, man, this is
just messed it up.
Like, man, they just messing. They just not shooting themselves in their own foot, But that's just a good defense. The good defense puts that pressure on you, and basically how we say in the locker room, and y'all have heard the term where you start seeing ghosts. You're thinking like, oh man, you the whole game you've been seeing Kid A. Clark penetrate through the middle, then you're expecting it again. So you kind of pull back or something a little too soon, or hold on to the ball a little too long, and the running back is trying to take it, or who's keeping it, and they don't know who's taking it and keeping it, and there's the fumble.
Evan Williams doesn't play like a rookie. I mean, the way that he broke up the pass play.
A day 3 rookie.
Absolutely. A day 3 rookie, the way that he broke up the pass play to win the game in Los Angeles, then the punch out to the teach tape yesterday.
Stuffed Kyler on the keeper to force a punt yesterday.
He's been fantastic.
He
does not play like a rookie.
And
that's what you want.
Here's a stat for you. So the Buffalo Bills are last in the NFL in blitz percentage. They blitz opposing quarterbacks on only 16.2% of their dropbacks. The Packers are 30th in the league. But yesterday, they blitzed Kyler Murray on 11.1% of his dropbacks. Their game plan was, if they throw the kitchen sink at him, he's quick enough to escape whatever pressure comes at him right away. And then if you have 5-6 guys in the backfield, he's going to make someone miss in the second level. So what Matt LaFleur said is we stay disciplined behind him. This is a guy that can wreck a game running. He had a 50-yard rushing touchdown against the 49ers last week. Kyler Murray, 7 carries for 14 yards yesterday.
Yeah,
and when he did get out, every single time Javon Bullard, their rookie safety, was coming downhill, forcing him out of bounds, running him toward the sideline.
He was the spy.
Yeah.
So, having that mindset, and I talked about this on my shows that I do.
Plug all your shows, by the way, right now.
Plug on the show. So I got a couple shows on Packer Believe in Packers with the Believe Network. Green and Gold G Lounge. We have that through Alumni Media Network, and that's me, Gilbert Brown, and Dorsey Levens. And then Ahman Green's Gamers Lounge I do on Wednesdays, and that's at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Gamers Lounge our G Lounge is going to be tomorrow at 2 o'clock because we're flying home tomorrow, so we usually do it at 10:30, so I had to move it back a little bit. And then another one called The Drive out of Lincoln, Nebraska, where it's mostly Husker sports, but we do all around, professional sports as well. WNBA, obviously, in their final session, pushing playoffs in Major League Baseball. So that is on 8 to 10 every day, Monday through Friday. It's The Drive. It's on Twitch. We're on Twitch and YouTube with that as well. But talking on them shows about I forgot where I was going with that with all the
I was talking about Kyler Murray and Javon Bullard spying on him.
So was talking about that on the shows. Like, you don't want Kyler to have fun. Don't let him beat you with your arm and with his arm and his leg, because he will do that. He's done that previously in the games. That's what got them back in the game against the 49ers and other games. So make him one-dimensional. And he doesn't like to say, if anything, he doesn't like to stay in the pocket, make him stay in the pocket. But they also, like you said, let him run, but then having the discipline on the back end, that's taking away something. They took away his legs. So if he got outside the pocket, let's keep him behind the line of scrimmage, because then now he's got to make a decision if he's going to throw the ball into coverage or to an open receiver or a receiver that he thinks is open, but he's not running. So that's why he only has 14 yards.
Yeah.
So that was the way. It's like, let's take it. I'd rather take his legs away, because then I got more hands in the defensive backfield. I got 7 DBs, and that's 14 pairs of hands that could probably get a tip ball here and there. And they've been doing, obviously, like we already talked, great all the year already. Got 17 on the season, 17 turnovers. So that right there, from a stat standpoint and just common sense football IQ, it's like, let's not let him run.
Yeah.
Keep him behind the pocket, make it easy on the DBs. You just sit there, watch him and the receiver, and the safeties are, taking a notch on who's where in terms of broken play techniques, stuff like that. Then you're able to contain him and not let his legs and arm hurt you at the same time.
And that's the strategy they used against the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, against the Colts and Anthony Richardson. Yeah. And they're like, all right, we're not going to.
It's a run pass league now. Of course,
yeah.
With the quarterback position, I'll say.
All right, we got to get to one more break here on the Matt Schneidman Show. Give me 4 uninterrupted minutes watching the top of the first inning of this Yankees game. Ahman Green joining us. Green and Gold Legend Series, Episode 2. Dorsey Levens, number 1. Ahman Green, number 2. Here at the beautiful Potawatomi Sportsbook studio. Stick with us right here on the game. Now through October 27th, buy $75 or more of Iron Jock, and you'll receive 25% off your entire purchase with promo code OCT25. Get it? October OCT25. Plus, Iron Jock will include a 3-pack of low show socks for free. Make sure you have the socks in your cart, and they'll automatically be marked down to free. Go to ironjock.com for details. That's ironjoc.com. Back here at the beautiful Potawatomi Sportsbook studio. Potawatomi Sportsbook, Hotel, Casino in Milwaukee. If you're watching the stream, you know who this is next to me, Ahman Green, the undisputed, maybe disputed, best running back in Packer history. Some people might dispute that. Multi-time Pro Bowler, multi-time All-Pro, Packers Hall of Famer, leading rusher in Green Bay Packers history. And I want to get your thoughts on this. So recently, the Packers have this situation with Romeo Doubs.
Yes.
A very important receiver on their team. He essentially skips 2 practices last week.
I heard about it.
It's reported that he's unhappy with his role. Christian Watson and Matt LaFleur come out with quotes that imply that is true. Christian Watson basically said last week that, it's going to take a little while to get the family feeling back together, implying that it was about his role. Matt LaFleur said, you got to put the team first. Then Romeo Doubs comes out and says on Friday, it had nothing to do with football, nothing to do with on the field. We had some stuff going on off the field.
Oh, okay.
He comes, so.
I'm glad I know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we don't know exactly what's going on.
Correct.
But all that matters for the Packers is that there doesn't seem to be any friction on the field or in the locker room. After his first touchdown catch yesterday, they do the group hug around him. Romeo doesn't celebrate. He's probably the most stoic guy in that locker room.
Yeah.
But the reaction yesterday, getting him back involved in the offense, obviously a good sign for the Packers. And I want to ask you this. If you're in the locker room and you see a teammate skip practice, essentially, regardless of what the reason is, how do you go about trying to find out why? Is it awkward when he comes back into the facility the next day, especially after the team suspends him for a game?
Uh-huh.
It was just a real funky, awkward situation all around.
No, it's not awkward. It's like, okay, I got if a player at the pro level is going to miss practice, something's going on.
Yeah,
I know right away it has nothing to do with football. This is something personal. So I'm going to approach them. It's like, hey, bro, if you need somebody to talk to, because you're missing practice, you're missing meetings. So I already know it's something dead serious. And so, yeah, I'm reaching out on a personal level, saying, hey, are you okay? How can I help? Who you need me to talk to? You need me to talk to a coach, head coach, your position coach, as a leader. I would take hold because he's still a young guy. And for me, me being a veteran in the room or just being a teammate, I'm just like, hey, I want to help this out, see what's going on, because this is obviously more than football, because I know you. And I met Romeo his rookie year. I knew right away he was going to be a different receiver.
Yeah.
Watch him run routes, how he gets open. He has that wiggle. He has that expertise of knowing how to get open no matter what the situation. Even if the DB is a 11-time Pro Bowl DB, he's going to get open. He has that confidence with him. So knowing that, I'm definitely personally checking in with him. Like, this is more than football. Are you okay? Type of conversation. So that's how I approach it, and then support him for then. And then I like knowing this, and like on one of my shows last week, we were talking about it, not knowing this information.
Yeah.
And of course, I was like taking it from a standpoint, oh, he's a wide receiver. Wide receivers are divas anyway. And that was my honest answer because I didn't know everything.
Yeah.
And also because I also mentioned, hey, maybe stuff going on that we're not aware of.
We still don't really know.
Exactly. But if knowing what I know now, that's definitely another approach. But it's the other approach is also just straight to him. Like, hey man, we need you. I don't know why you're missing practice right now, but you can't do that. And that's the conversation. It's real simple like that. I'm not gonna be yelling, I'm not gonna be disrespecting. I'm just saying, hey, you're a good player. We need you locked in. Now, if you need me to help out, talk to coach or whatever, to support you, give you some backing, I will do that. But I need you to make sure you're gonna show up to practice and show up and getting yourself ready to play on Sunday, stuff like that. So that's the type of, I'll say, conversation, and I'll say leadership that you got to have in that room to help a player like that, because he's a fantastic player. And for them to get him late in the rounds when he got drafted, it was like, ooh, I was like, what? I was like, they did some good scouting, able to find him, and he was still there waiting on him with that pick in, I think, fourth or fifth round.
Yeah.
So that was awesome. So right now, to get off that conversation and be on the field, winning football takes care of a lot of that. And so I think that's where you saw the hug and everything. That will continue. If that continues, obviously with good gameplay, then yeah, we'll see this kind of just be a blip on the radar, basically.
At some point, they're not going to be able to pay all 4 of these wide receivers. And I mean, Dobbs, Watson, Wicks, and Reed.
Yeah.
And the whole talk this offseason and preseason was they don't have a bona fide number 1 guy, but they have 4 guys who can be that number 1 any given day.
Yes.
Through the first 6 weeks of the season, Jaden Reed probably looks the closest thing to a number 1, but then you see Dobbs and Watson come back.
Yeah.
And Watson, fakes Buda Baker out, a 6-time Pro Bowler on that post route, gets wide open for a 44-yard touchdown. Romeo catches 2 touchdowns. Tucker Kraft's, making himself into a clear-cut number 1 tight end. I mean, let me make this clear, and I've made this clear many times before. Having a guy like a Devontae Adams is never a bad thing. It's not going to make your team worse. But there is something, and there is value to having not that 1A, top-tier name guy, because teams just don't know who's going to be the guy on any given day.
No, that's right, and it's tough. And it's really, sometimes it's easy because that top-tier player just kind of shows up. And he shows his gameplay. You see the numbers on the stat sheet. You'd be like, oh, okay, we could tell who's number 1 here. But when you have these young guys, and it was kind of like when a couple years ago when all the running backs got drafted with Aaron Jones. It's the same you had all these running backs, Jamal Williams, Aaron Jones, and a few other guys that kind of panned out later.
Alvin Kamara was in that draft.
And then eventually, for the Packers, though, that they drafted all those running backs, it boiled down to Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones. They kind of became the duel. And then after that, Jamal left, Aaron Jones was here, then AJ came in, and now you got that with the wide receivers. And so far, it is a good problem to have because you got young talent that is very hungry, and not only do they understand playing for the team, but also playing for themselves, like individually first, but then also for each other. So they definitely understand that. I see that on the field, obviously with their celebrations and everything else, and I'm pretty sure in the locker room as well. So now it's just like, as a coach, I wouldn't worry about, I say fandom and GM probably think about, you know what? Yeah, we in a couple of years, we got to figure this out. But as a coach, I was like, you know what? These guys,
that's not his job to give out the contracts.
I'm not messing nothing up right now. We're all playing good. We're on a good note. We'll handle that problem when the time comes. If it is a bump and a roll later on, let it be a bump and a roll later on. Right now, we got next week of football to go. That's it. We came out the bye week, got a dub. That's always what you want as an NFL team or any professional team. You have a bye week, you come out and get a win. We got that. Now let's get ready for the rest of the season. That's how I'm looking at it as if I'm LaFleur or the wide receivers coach or the running backs coach in there.
Let's look ahead a little bit to next week's game. I think, obviously not an NFC North opponent, not a conference opponent, but Doug, a real litmus test game to kind of test where the Packers are at a little more than a third of the way through the season against
the 5-1 Houston Texans.
This is a trendy Super Bowl pick right here. This game coming up on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
They're a little different from when you played for the Texans.
A lot different. Oh man, I mean, both of us. We both lived. Me and my wife is here sitting in the studio. We lived through that, and it was an unfortunate timing. I went down there as a leader coming from here, and they were still fledgling flat franchise.
Right. David Carr was the quarterback.
David Carr, and then when I talked, the crazy thing, I'm the rumor, not the rumor, but it was out that I was going to come for a visit, and then I signed. I talked to him the day I signed. Then the next day he got released, and then we signed Matt Schaub. It's like, because he's talking about, man, it's gonna be good to have you in the backfield, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I had no idea this was going down. And then the next moment, I find out he gets cut, and then Matt Schaub's coming in. I'm like, this is the league. This is how things go. But yeah, it was a different attitude, a different environment, a different atmosphere down there. The attitude that they have there definitely wasn't there in 07 and 08 when I was there. Yeah, it is better now.
They're playing really well now.
Miko has them doing a great job, and it's that winning mentality, and that's what I was trying to do, but I was outnumbered.
Well, it's amazing
from a player standpoint.
What a new head coach can do, because DeMeco Ryans comes in and takes. I mean, they went from a 3-win team to a 10-win team in one season, and now they're continuing on that with the 5-1 start that they've gotten off to.
Exactly.
Their only loss has been to Minnesota.
Yeah, and that's a good team this year right now.
Yeah, great team, 5-0.
The first half of the season, they got a defense, they got offense, and they got a guy, a journeyman at quarterback. And Donald, like, people forget he's a first rounder.
Yeah. Number 3 overall pick.
And he's a very accurate quarterback.
Change of scenery sometimes helps.
Right, and he's been around the league so many teams. Some teams I didn't even know. I didn't know he's a 49er. So he got a little bit of behind Shanahan and getting those for a lot, inputted the philosophy, inputted in his mindset, being already a good quarterback from USC. So, this season for them, or say for back to the practice, they just got, just to take their time and, see how players, I'll say, pan out from that wide receiver core to make sure, like I said, you don't push nothing from a coaching standpoint. You just kind of let it go.
It's been a great hour here with Ahman Green, Packers all-time leading rusher at Potawatomi Sportsbook. If you're ever down in the Milwaukee area, you got to come by. Hotel, Sportsbook, Casino, all fantastic. We appreciate them having us today. Looking forward to Ahman's meet and greet after this. Have some food, watch some football. For Doug, I'm Matt. You know him. We'll catch you tomorrow.
I'll be your teacher.